and play on 2nd and 10. That's his youth right there.
Tagovailoa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins!
I'll be giving my Week 7 college football predictions. So starting with Alabama at Missouri. So I would give the quarterback advantage to Alabama in this game. Ty Simpson now is looking like one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He's playing better now than I thought he was going to be in the preseason. He had a great game last week against Vanderbilt, completing 74.2% of his passes for 340 yards and 2 touchdown passes, averaging a very good 11 yards per throw. And the only mistake he made in that game was that interception on the first drive of the game. But Missouri's quarterback, Bo Prabila, has been very solid for them this season. Penn State probably now wishes they wouldn't have ran him off to keep playing Disaster Al, or because even though he doesn't have the size of Disaster Al, and he doesn't have the arm strength that Disaster Aller has, unlike Disaster Aller, he actually knows how to play quarterback. And Missouri's running back, Ahmad Hardy, is leading the country in rushing yards. In these first 5 games, he's already got 730 yards, and he's rushed for 100 plus in all 5 games. And he's already got 9 touchdowns, and he's averaging 7.1 yards per carry. But he's not faced a front seven yet near as good as Alabama's. And Kevin Coleman has been a great receiver for Missouri. He's been their go-to wide receiver. He's in these first 5 games already got 39 catches for 386. And Alabama's superstar wide receiver, Ryan Williams, has been struggling some with drops this year. He dropped what would have been a touchdown catch against Georgia, but he didn't really struggle with it last week against Vanderbilt. He had a great game catching 6 passes for 98 yards and a touchdown. While I do think this game will be close, I think Alabama's defense is a little bit better than Missouri's is, and I think they're better at the line of scrimmage than Missouri is on both sides. And I think those things make the difference. I've got Alabama getting the win over Missouri by a score of 27-20. So now Oklahoma versus Texas. So I saw John Mateer is listed as questionable to play in this game, and Texas's defense is going to have to play like it did against Ohio State if Mateer does play for them to have any chance of winning this game. And even if it's Hawkins playing, their defense is going to have to play better than it did against Florida, because they just let that dud quarterback DJ Lagway throw for nearly 300 yards on them. And Hawkins can run like Mateer can, but he's not near as good of a passer as Mateer. But I would be shocked if Texas's offense is able to score very much in this game, the way their offense has been struggling and the way Oklahoma's defense has been dominating. Texas's run game, I think, is going to be non-existent in this game because their offensive line doesn't stand a chance against this Oklahoma defensive line. And Oklahoma's defensive line is not just about their starting four. they have been rotating 8 defensive linemen in and out all throughout the game. And Oklahoma is only giving up on average 74.6 rushing yards per game, and they're only giving up on average 118.4 passing yards per game, and they rank second in the country in points allowed, only giving up 6 points per game on average. And Oklahoma has 21 sacks this season. I think they're going to sack Arch Manning a lot in this game. And Keontae Lewis, the Oklahoma player that ran into a brick wall last week, who's been one of their good wide receivers, I saw as a possibility to play in this game. I saw that he didn't have any broken bones from that, and he only had a concussion. But if Mateer doesn't play in this game, a concern for Oklahoma would be that against the two Power Four teams that they've played, Michigan and Auburn, they've not been able to get any of their running backs going. And while I know Michigan and Auburn have both got good defenses, Texas's front seven does have a whole lot of talent, even though I know they did struggle a lot to stop Florida's runs. Their front seven has got two possible All-American players, Colin Simmons on the defensive line and Anthony Hill at linebacker. So I'm gonna give my score prediction, assuming that John Mateer does play. I've got Oklahoma getting the win over Texas by a score of 24-17. So now Indiana at Oregon. So these two teams' defenses are pretty similar. They've both been really good. Oregon, this is their best defense under Dan Lanning, it appears. They rank sixth in the country in points allowed, only giving up 10.8 on average. And Indiana ranks third in points allowed, only giving up 9.2 on average. But something to remember is Oregon's already played four Power Four opponents. Indiana's only played two. And at quarterback, Dante Moore and Fernando Mendoza have been very similar quarterbacks this season. And the running back rooms, I'd say, are about even. And at wide receiver, while Indiana has, I think, the better combination of two wide receivers with Elijah Surratt and Omar Cooper, Oregon has more depth at wide receiver than Indiana does. And Oregon's got the tight end advantage because they've got Kenyon Sadiq, who's coming off a pretty big game against Penn State where he had 6 catches for 49 yards. And while I do think Indiana's defense can slow down Oregon's offense, the big problem for Indiana in this game, I think, is going to be their offensive line against Oregon's defensive line. I think that's going to be a big mismatch for them. I think Oregon's going to shut down Indiana's run game, and I think they're going to be able to get a lot of pressure on Mendoza. And I've got Oregon getting the win over Indiana by a score of 27-17. So now Georgia at Auburn. So Georgia and Auburn both seem to have elite run defenses. Georgia's only giving up on average 82 rushing yards per game, and Auburn's only giving up on average 88 rushing yards per game. And I think that makes this a bad matchup for Auburn. Because to beat Georgia, you're going to have to be able to throw well, I think. And while Auburn has the wide receivers to do that, they've got better wide receivers, I think, than Georgia does. I don't think they have the quarterback to do that. Jackson Arnold is still just not a very good quarterback. He was awful against Texas A&M. In that game, he only threw for 125 yards and only completed 54.6% of his throws and only averaged 3.8 yards per throw. The only time that Auburn's offense has been successful this year against a Power Four opponent was against Baylor when they were able to run the football. And since they've been playing SEC opponents, they've been averaging 2 yards per run. And against Texas A&M and Oklahoma, they've given up a combined 15 sacks. Their offensive line has been getting dominated, and I think that's going to continue in this Georgia game. And Gunnar Stockton is a better quarterback right now than Jackson Arnold is, and Georgia's got a better offensive line than Auburn does. So I think they're going to be able to run better in this game than Auburn will. And I think those things that make the difference. I've got Georgia getting the win over Auburn by a score of 27-20. So now Arizona State at Utah. So I think this is going to be more of a defensive game. Both teams have a really good defense. Arizona State's defense, I think, is better than it was last year. And I'd say their defense is about even with Utah's. And their offensive lines, I think, are pretty similar. And each team has a good running back. For Utah, it's Wayshawn Parker, the transfer they brought in from Washington State. He's only got 42 carries in these first 5 games, but he has 280 yards, averaging 6.7 yards per carry. And for Arizona State, it's Raleek Brown. He's already got 506 yards in these first 5 games on 77 carries. He's averaging 6.6 a carry. I think he'll get 20 plus carries in this game. And the quarterback run is a big part of both of these teams' offense. So expect there to be a lot of quarterback runs in this game. And neither team has got a loaded wide receiver room. Utah's best one this year has been Ryan Davis, a transfer that they brought in from New Mexico with their new quarterback Devin Dampier. He's already got in these first 5 games 36 catches for 348. But Arizona State has the advantage at wide receiver because they have Jordan Tyson.
Tonight from Matt College's defense. Levitt throws a laser. It's caught. It's Tyson. It's touchdown.
I don't think Utah can slow him down. I think he's going to have another huge game. And I trust Sam Levitt a little bit more at quarterback than I do Devin Dampier. So I think that those two things make the difference. Even though I do think that this is going to be a very close game, I've got Arizona State getting the win over Utah by a score of 24-20. So now Michigan at Southern Cal. So Jaden Mayava right now is a better quarterback than Bryce Underwood. But Bryce Underwood is coming off his best game so far against a Power Four team. Against Wisconsin, he completed 19 of 28 passes for 270 yards and a touchdown. And USC's wide receiver room this year is not as loaded as it's been in the past under Lincoln Riley. which has caused them to have to use tight ends more for pass catching than in years past. But Mekhi Lemon is, I think, the third best receiver in the country. He's averaging 7 catches per game and 16.8 yards per catch and over 100 yards receiving per game. And he's already got 5 touchdowns. He's coming off a huge game against Illinois where he had 11 catches for 151 and 2 touchdowns.
Mayava looking up the sideline. Caught.
And their wide receiver room is better than Michigan's is still. But for Michigan, Donovan McCulley has become their go-to wide receiver. Against Wisconsin, he had a huge game of 6 catches for 112 yards and a touchdown. And USC's running back combination of Waymon Jordan and Eli Sanders has been really good. They've combined in these first 5 games for 801 yards and 7 touchdowns. But the difference in this game, I think, is going to be the line of scrimmage, where Michigan has a big advantage on both sides. Michigan's front seven, I think, can slow down USC's run game. And the USC's offensive line has been dealing with injuries, including to their best offensive lineman, Elijah Page, who was an All-American player last season. But the biggest mismatch in this game, I think, is going to be USC's defensive line going against Michigan's offensive line. I think USC's defensive line's going to get pushed around really badly. And I'm going to predict that Justice Haynes runs for 200 plus yards in this game. I've got Michigan getting the win over USC by a score of 30-24. So that will be it with this video. Please subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.